Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about suggesting code changes. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, how would you recommend significant code changes to a junior developer's work without upsetting them or impacting their confidence? Well, so the first thing I would do would be to try to reduce the quantity of comments that I put on a code review. Like an example would be, if you have a junior level developer, it doesn't have to be a junior. Honestly, guys, this is sensitive for everybody. The quantity of comments you put on somebody's pull request is actually a sensitive thing for some people. So what I try to do is that if I find small things, then I'll put a comment on it and just try to describe what I think we should do instead. Everything is always a suggestion. I'm never forcing anybody to do anything, because I believe that ideas should stand on their own merit, and unless I have the tech lead position or something like that, there's no gain for me in forcing people to do things. Usually I can try to persuade them, but for the most part I try to leave it a little bit open. And so if it's really big, like we're talking about, the whole thing is not super great, then I will do this thing that I believe is the best approach. I will describe at a high level what I think the problem is, or like what I think that and what sort of is the impact of this code that they have written, and then I will come with some concrete suggestions of things that we should be doing instead. Now, I don't try to go into too much detail in like my code comments or things like that. The reason being, because I want to finish the sentence by stating this very simple thing. If you have any problems, or if you want any of my suggestions, just let me help. Let me know if you need any extra help. Something like that. I always end with that. The reason being, because I argue that if it's significant enough, like we're talking like major things here where like tons and tons of stuff is wrong, there's no way for me in a nice way to just go through all of it and say, hey, this is wrong, this is wrong. It's not productive. What is more productive, I argue, is to say, hey, I have this suggestion on how we could do it in a different way. Let's sit down and talk about it, like face to face. We do a pair programming session or something like that. Because basically what my goal here is not to my goal is not to make the other person feel like you're doing everything wrong. What I want them to feel is, okay, Frederick has another solution. Maybe that is a good solution. And I want to present my solution and let them come to the realization themselves whether or not their solution or my solution is the good one. I hope that makes sense to you. The difference is one is attacking their solution, and one is presenting a solution that might be better. And that perspective difference is super different in terms of how it's received usually, because as I said, I'm not telling them that this is not necessarily good. I can think what I want, my own thoughts, of course, but I'm not trying to make them feel bad over the fact that they didn't do a good job. I'm trying to show them a way of doing it better. And the impact of that could be, and it has often happened for me, I've worked with juniors where they see my solution and I say, I think that this and that and so forth is better, and I think we should do this and that would be nice, etc., etc. And they start going, oh yeah, but that's going to take like forever. Yeah, okay. Then go and do it. And they go, oh yeah, but that's going to increase my scope, and like maybe I'm not going to be done now. Then that's what's going to have to happen, because I think that we both can agree and it's the same thing with our managers and our product owners. I think that we can all agree now, assuming of course that this is not that this is the case. Well, we can agree that the code should probably work and like fill the criteria and things like that. It depends, what is the issue with the code, right? But I've had many juniors who literally could not solve this problem, and the only thing I can do is the thing that I think that it's a mutual responsibility between junior and senior here. So as a senior, I have to be sociable enough and good enough of a mentor to make it very clear, and I always do, especially with the juniors. I always tell them, and I tell everybody of my coworkers, every single day we have code reviews or something like that. Do you need any help? I ask them on every single day. when I have like stand-ups with them and so forth. And this is something that I believe most people should be doing. The reason being because I want the junior to understand that, okay, so you made this gigantic thing and so forth, and if they don't ask for help, if they're unsure, then what they basically did now is the thing that I argue to most people, like you've made a really big mistake. But instead of talking to your coworker and giving a few suggestions of what you're going to do, you went and built something, you probably spent a bunch of time on it, and now you have to throw it away. And you have nobody else to blame but yourself. Because you, as I said, like you know for a fact that there's going to be a code review. You know for a fact that you're going to, if like depending on how well you understand, of course, like the goal is to write code that passes the code review. As in, your coworkers are hopefully not going to be very nitpicky about all the things and so forth and so forth. But if it's the major mismatch in what is supposed to be happen and what you have built, then it comes down to your skill as a software developer to solve this problem, and you could have mitigated that by simply talking to your coworker. And that's why I try to make them understand. And so in this scenario, okay, well, let's just chalk this down. I don't tell them this, but I'm going to chalk this down as just a fuck up. And if the junior now learns from their mistakes and they realize that, okay, next time when I'm unsure, I'll talk to Frederick or I'll talk to someone and so forth and try to show my idea before I go too far with it. And then maybe, or like when I feel like I have something to show, then maybe I'll get that feedback earlier so I don't go down a rabbit hole too far and then realize I spent a bunch of time of this and then it's not going to pass the code review, and so now I have to redo the whole thing. And I will do this every single time. And this is the thing that gets stressful for juniors usually, because I can't really help them with this. So if they try again and they don't ask for my help, they don't do the things and so forth and so on, then it's going to bounce again. And then it's going to bounce again, and then it's going to bounce again, and then until it's just going to keep on stressing. Because what I always tell my juniors and my coworkers and everybody who's working in my team, the only difference between you, if you're a senior or a junior in my teams at the very least, is how fast you're going to get the code out. I don't care if you're a junior or a senior or like whatever you call yourself. Either the code is working according to how we want it to work, or it's not. And so you can choose to isolate yourself and keep on bouncing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then your manager is going to start asking questions like, why is this taking forever? And all I have to say is, well, they're not really collaborating, so I can't really help them, because every time when I suggest to them to do something, they won't actually talk to me about what I mean and like actually solve the problem. They're just going to say and take their own interpretation of what I mean and then continue. And I'm very happy to just say, okay, we'll just merge this code, but the issues that we have are still there. And so either we ignore what I say, which is perfectly fine with me, because if the company wants to make that judgment call, that's okay. I also make sure that if something is bouncing over and over and it's like a minor thing or so forth, I'm not petty. Like if it's like we're talking something that doesn't really matter, of course I'm going to let it through even though it's not perfect. But if it's something, as you said, major things that needs to be fixed, I'm not going to let it through. And no sane engineer would allow bad solutions to go into production just because somebody's getting stressed over the fact that they keep on bouncing. So what I want you to take away from this is that my suggestion is that, and I would say even if you're not dealing with a junior, if someone has made a solution that is not going to work or so forth and so forth, don't approach the problem by saying, hey, you fucked up, you did bad here's the thing. Like try to choose a narrative where you're basically stating that I see your solution, these are a few of my suggestions that we could use in order to mitigate a few of these issues and so forth. In other words, you're trying to present an alternative that is more that has patched basically the issues that you see with their solution, and then you basically just compare them and try to put things in a narrative where it's not a question of like you're trying to just belittle their work or make them feel bad. You're trying to show them a better way of doing things, because if you take that approach and then you foster an environment where they start feeling like, all right, next time I might like check in before I go too far on this thing and so forth, you're going to get the same thing. You're going to get better working code and people are not going to feel bad about it. But the people who usually go the other route are, as I said, like it's more, I'm not saying that's always the case, but I've seen quite a lot of software developers, they take a little bit of personal pleasure from making sticking it to other people, and you can almost see it in their eyes, like glee when they get to like say, oh, you fucked up, or like to basically put people in their place and so forth. I've felt this many times myself, because some people start resenting you if you tell them something. Like they can get upset with you if you turn out to not agree with them on things and things like that and so forth. And if you start feeling like getting those sorts of things, I think that you should personally avoid that. And because I can tell you, if I see that in my teams, I fire those people like very, very quickly. I don't want any people like that in my teams. We focus on producing good solutions, not making people feel bad over the fact that they didn't measure up. Have a great day.